Hello and welcome to Health Professional Radio. I'm your host, Neal Howard, for this Health Suppliers segment here on Health Professional Radio. Thank you so much for joining us today. As many as half of this nation's 1.5 million nursing home residents will fall at least once every year. Now, that's according to the CDC. Our guest in studio is Dr. Zachary Palace, and he's here today to talk with us about InSight. It's the latest product from EarlySense. EarlySense is the market leader in contact-free continuous monitoring. Welcome to the program, Doctor.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for being with me today.
Thank you. Now, you've got some experience with InSight. Talk a little bit about your background. What exactly is your specialty as a health practitioner?
Sure. So I am a board-certified physician in internal medicine and in geriatric medicine, and I currently work as the medical director of the Hebrew Home for the Aged at Riverdale, which is a large long-term care facility, and we have patients, nursing home patients, over 800 of them,
Wow.
as well as rehab patients, rehab patients who are with us for a short stay, and they get physical therapy, occupational therapy while they're with us, and then return back to the community. So over the course of the last few years, we've had a lot of experience with this equipment and seen tremendous benefit.
Now, are these 800 plus residents all in one facility, or are they spread out over some satellite sites as well?
It's one facility. It's specifically one facility.
That's amazing. I suppose that you were having problems with slips and falls, and I guess some problems due to just general monitoring with that many residents.
Sure. I mean, as you mentioned, the elderly are prone to falling, and a fall in an elderly person can be a very serious event. Falls are associated with increased morbidity, mortality, fractures. A lot of issues come up with falls, and we want to try to do whatever we can to reduce the incidence of falls and to help keep our patients safe.
In your experience, you've got 1.5 million nursing home residents nationwide, and they're all due for at least one fall this year and possibly in each of the years throughout the rest of their lives. What was it that prompted you to change your method of monitoring over to InSight?
Well, we learned about this equipment several years ago. The company is based in Israel. And the more I read about it and learned about it, the more I realized that this is equipment that is really ideally, even though it was created for the hospital use, it's really ideally situated within the nursing home facility. And typically, we don't think of technology and innovation in the same sentence as nursing homes. Most people don't usually think that way. When you hear of a nursing home, you don't think of cutting-edge technology. But this type of equipment is actually, it's really neat. And what it is it's a contactless system. The sensors actually sit underneath the mattress. The patient's totally unaware that it's even there.
Wow.
Yeah.
So there's no monitoring a machine next to the patient's bed where they try to get out and go to the restroom and they have to move it or anything like that? No,
actually, that's one of the nice things, that there's no clinical feel to it. The patient doesn't even know it's there, or may not even know it's there. There are no wires attached to the patient. The sensor sits right underneath the mattress, and in real time it records a lot of important data. It records heart rate, it records respiratory rate, and it records movement in bed. And that's important information that we can use in terms of assessing our patients earlier.
How seamless a system is it when it comes to integrating it into your current network?
So the system itself is really self-contained, and it actually integrates very nicely. All this important information, like I mentioned, the heart rate, the respiratory rate, the movement in bed, all that information in real time gets transmitted directly to the nurse's station. So the nurses get this information, and then if any of the indicators alert, like if there's a high heart rate or a low heart rate or a respiratory rate that's out of the range of normal or increased activity in bed, that's going to send an alert directly to the nurse that, hey, something's going on with this patient. You should see them now. And very often, when the nurse responds to that alert, she'll identify an issue that could have become a potential problem. For example, if the patient is moving a lot in bed, that's an indicator to us that that patient might be at increased risk of fall. So this system actually lets us identify the person who's going to fall before they actually fall, so we prevent the fall.
That's amazing. And has the Hebrew Home at Riverdale seen, I guess, some identifiable cost savings as those savings relate to added efficiency as far as monitoring?
That's a good question. In actuality, we've seen a significant reduction in the rate of falls, and falls are associated, as I mentioned, with a lot of other problems, fractures, and more serious conditions. So that from that perspective, we're able to keep our patients healthier. But in reality, by alerting the nurse that the patient is moving in bed or the patient hasn't moved much in bed, that's going to trigger the nurse to see the patient and rotate the patient. And there are timers incorporated into the system that will alert the nurse to rotate the patient. By rotating the patient from side to side and changing position, that's going to prevent the development of bed sores. And bed sores are a major issue in the nursing home.
Absolutely.
So by reducing the rate of bed sores, there's a significant cost savings to the facility.
Now, bed sores, you mentioned being just one of those concerns for, the hospital administration staff, but especially a concern for the loved ones who may have made the decision to put someone in one of these long-term care facilities. How easy does InSight make it for caregivers or loved ones to get information about the patient?
Well, all this information is recorded so that they're able to, they're able to have access to it, and they have a tremendous increase in their level of comfort. It's not easy to put anybody into a nursing home. It's not easy to make that decision for anybody to put their loved one into a facility, but knowing that there's that extra layer of oversight. And coming back to what you mentioned earlier as well, by identifying changes in the heart rates, by identifying changes in respiratory rate, and the response to those alerts, we're able to identify conditions earlier. So, for example, what could be today's cough could become tomorrow's pneumonia.
Absolutely.
But by picking it up earlier, we're able to treat it, and we're able to treat patients in place. So patients that might become ill and end up having to be transferred from the nursing home to the hospital, by identifying that earlier, we're able to treat them at the facility and avoid the hospitalization, which is a win-win for everybody.
Absolutely. Now, in closing, Dr. Palace, talk about some of the response from the staff there at the Hebrew Home at Riverdale as far as, sometimes there's a resistance to change when a certain system has been in practice for such a long time. Talk about the response as far as the user-friendliness of this technology.
Sure. The nurses have come to appreciate it. They're used to doing business as usual. They're used to doing things the way they've always done them. So change is always a little bit difficult at first, but when they realize the benefits to them as well as to the patients, they've been very, very excited about it and readily adopted the system.
Where can our listeners go and get more information about InSight, EarlySense, and the Hebrew Home at Riverdale?
So to learn more about the InSight system, you could go to www.earlysense.com to learn more, and they've got an exciting website with all this information on it. To learn more about the Hebrew Home, you can go to www.hebrewhome.org.
Thanks so much. You've been listening to Health Professional Radio. I'm your host, Neal Howard, for this Health Supplier segment here on Health Professional Radio. We've been talking with Dr. Zachary Palace today about InSight, the latest product from EarlySense, the market leader in contact-free continuous monitoring. It's been great having you here with us today, Doctor.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Transcripts and audio of this program are available at healthprofessionalradio.com.au and also at hpr.fm. And you can subscribe to this podcast on iTunes.